Tip Your Cap, the show where we give our pioneers their flowers. As host Trayanne gets up close and personal in conversation with individuals that were instrumental in knocking down doors and revolutionising the landscape of media and entertainment in the UK. Join us each week as they talk about their journey, their story, and their legacy. Tip your cap.
And welcome to Tip Your Cap. I'm Trayanne Rowe. Today's guest is a multi-award winning comedian, businesswoman, speaker, writer, director, producer and talk show host. Welcome to the stage, Angie Le Mar.
Roots changed my life because I was a happy-go-lucky girl and I watched Roots. I had to go back to school the next day. The black girls were like this. You see Roots?
Miss Angie Le Mar.
Welcome, Angie. Lovely to have you
having
here.
me. Honoured to be here.
Oh, that's lovely. It's so nice to be here with you. And as we were just talking about, I do look up to you, Angie Le Mar. You are amazing. You are amazing. And, you stand for so much. So, Angie, I want to start off with asking, do you remember your very first performance?
Oh, wow. I think my very, very first performance when I was a young child at my primary school, which was Lucian Bridge School, where I was in the production of Aladdin. Oh. And I remember I was too young to actually be in the production, but my drama teacher, who was my English teacher, who was, the class teacher, he said, Angie, I think you're so talented, I'm going to put you in the play. And I remember the one line he gave me, Aladdin, brave Aladdin, good for nothing Aladdin, and at times a little bit naughty Aladdin. And I'm telling you, the way I thought I was a star.
But you was a star. I bet you killed that line. I bet you killed
it. Know that.
Yeah. So what would you say was your most memorable performance?
Oh, there are so many that I kind of look back on and think, wow, that was really an amazing time. And that was I think for me, Funny Black Women on the Edge, my very first show that I wrote. And I put that on at the Peckham Civic Centre. Oh, yes. And a great producer, Ian Thompson, allowed me to take my work there and just put it on stage. And that was the first thing I'd ever written that's written by and directed by Angie Le Mar. And these are things I've never done before. But I'm looking at the posters thinking, what a huge responsibility. However, I don't have the budget, so I have to direct it. I'm going to write it because these are the words that I want to say. That every time I go for an audition, they don't give me these lines. It's always like, oh God, is my son, like I'm auditioning for the bill. Oh God, is my son. That was the only thing that we were out there trying to, social workers with no makeup. And I thought, you know what? I don't want to do that. I want to actually just show funky Black women, feisty, varied. So for me, Funny Black Women was that, because it was a responsibility to be a writer, to say, I'm now inviting an audience in to see my work. And it was sold out every night. The audience were giving me the thumbs up to say, yeah, Ange, keep doing that. So that would be my biggest show, because that was the change in the game from coming from stand-up into writing.
How long ago was that then?
That's about 30 years. That's about 30 years.
Wow.
30, yeah.
Yeah. Right.
And Funny Black is coming back next year to take a final bow.
Oh, excellent. That's something to look forward to then. Definitely. So, Angie, what was it like working? What is it like working in a mainly male environment? Lots of
You know, the
comedians.
thing is, it's only kind of like shown to you that it's a male environment as I got older. Now, I'm the youngest of four older brothers. So I've got four older brothers. I'm the youngest. And so I've always been around men and very comfortable with men, very kind of like it's normal for me to be sitting with a group of men, but it would be somebody to highlight it. Like my mum would come in my room or into my brother's room when all their friends were there and say, Angela, see you sit down with all them boys, they come out the room. You can't sit down by yourself with boys. And it baffled me. I used to think to myself, but they're my brothers and they're my friends. Why can't I be the one woman sitting in amongst them, really feeling protected and having a laugh? So growing up to do stand-up in a male-dominated business didn't trouble me in the slightest. I wasn't fazed by them, intimidated. I wasn't worried. It's other people that have come on and highlighted it and said, what's it like being in a lineup with all men? It's actually, it was fine. And the men at the time doing stand-up, they were all protective. You've got people like Leo Chester, Curtis Walker, Miles Crawford, Felix Dexter. These are the people that you're, Jefferson and Whitfield, these are people that you're kind of like moving with, that you're friends. So they really were protective.
Yeah, excellent. So Angie, you were the very first Black performer to storm the Harlem Apollo and also the very first Black comedian to have a sellout show. That must have been an amazing feeling. How did it feel?
Well, the thing is, you just do things. You don't actually know you're being the first or creating, pioneering. All you know is that you are ambitious and you've got a hustle in you. I've got a hustle in me. That is, if that person can do it, I'd like to try. I'm inspired by these people. I'm inspired by the greats in America. I'd gone to America to do a documentary and I'd studied that Chuck Sutton had run the Apollo. And I remember contacting them and saying, look, I want to play the Apollo. I went to the Apollo and they went and got him and came down with security because they thought I was a madwoman. And therefore what happened was they said, well, you're going to be my special guest tomorrow. The same again with being in the West End with a one-woman show. It's never been done before as a Black British woman. And what I wanted to achieve was if everybody else can do it, then I can do it. I must be able to do it. So when I approached the West End, they were like, well, the Black audience won't come to the West End. So I said, well, they will for me. So they tried to give me a smaller theatre, which was off West End. And I said, no, I want Shaftesbury Avenue. Because that's the avenue, that's the street to be on. That's where the theatre is. And I got Shaftesbury Avenue and we sold out. Easy, light work. And so it became history that we could go where we want. And that's what I believe, we go where we want. There is nothing stopping us. My ancestors have created that. I can go anywhere. So I stand on great shoulders to believe I can be accessible in any place. No one can tell me no.
That's powerful, that is. I'm being inspired as I listen to you. So, Angie, when did you realise that you could make people laugh? Was it at school, at home?
Oh, all those places. Definitely at school, most definitely at home, because when we used to have blackouts back in the day, entertainment was it. So I knew that we're in a room, the candles are there, we're waiting for the electricity to come back on. And so I don't know how it was the whole of England, but everywhere was cut down of electricity. So I could guarantee that they would stay in the room and let me just rant and make them laugh. And I used to just pretend to be my mum. My mum used to sit there like, oh, God, there she goes again. And I'd be like, this is mummy. Hello, everybody, you want to go back here? You want to dinner? And then they'd laugh. My dad, I pretend to be my dad. Listen, you don't want to do that, And I don't know, I'm just this young girl. And hearing laughter, there is nothing more powerful than hearing laughter. That's ultimate, because in everything, people want to laugh and feel good. In a relationship, someone will say to you, what's the one thing you're looking for? Someone with a sense of humor. Because nobody wants to be depressed. Nobody wants to feel low. And so for me, I was gifted with that gift. So I always knew that I would be doing laughter. I would be making people laugh because I just how powerful that felt.
Yeah, excellent. So would you say that the gift of laughter runs in the family line? I know you have a son who's a comedian. Have you got any other children who have gone down that avenue?
Well, it's so funny because I have a cousin who is a comedian as well.
Okay.
And it's my dad and his dad, who are brothers, who are very funny. And it's no surprise that my uncle has a child who is a comic, and I'm a comic and I have a child who's a comic. And I even see in two of my grandchildren signs of comedic. So you don't know, we might have a 3-generation line here. But my dad was so deadpan funny. Like he'll say something and you take a second look and you go, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
So funny.
Yeah.
And just to hear his humor and the way he'd react to my mum in particular, and just his ability to just see something that we wouldn't see and go, my mum would say something like, oh my God, it's raining outside. And he would say, it wouldn't be raining inside. You're always acting like outside is new to the rain. Yeah. And I used to think to myself, Dad, that was really, wow, you thought like that. And that's how it was with everything. So, and my son doing stand-up comedy, I mean, I never believed that would happen. I was pregnant when I was carrying Travis, doing stand-up on stage. Well, maybe something happened there.
Yeah.
But said to me, Mum, I want to do stand-up. And I thought, you're kidding me, right? After all that I've gone through, I thought you would want to do something else. But when I saw him do it, I went, you know what, he's actually really good. He's actually got that gift.
Excellent. Oh, lovely. Thank you. So that's the end of part 1, but coming up in part 2, we will talk more about Angie's view on the comedy industry in the UK and also how she made the transition from on stage to being behind the scenes, producing and directing. See you in a minute. Welcome back to Tip Your Cap, where I am delighted to be joined today by the legendary Angie Le Mar. So, Angie, what I'd like to know is, comedians now and those in the past, do you think the style has changed? As in, sometimes in the past you could really get some low blows, or what would you say? When I say low blows, as in the jokes, sometimes you'd be late to go into a, like a show, and then if you've got a wig on your head, you're in trouble. Do you remember those days?
Yes.
So do you think the style has changed at all, as in the comedians now?
It depends how far you're going back, going back to the early generation of career, or you're going back Richard Pryor, Whoopi Goldberg type area.
Yeah, let's go back.
I think if you're talking about comedy, the one thing about comedy is that it's got one responsibility, and that's to make you laugh. Yeah. And you'll find out who you like as a comedian, and who you want to follow, who you want to become fans with, because of their point of view. Most comics have that sense of point of view, which is a commentary, it's social commentary that we make funny. Yeah. So something happened today, we're walking down the street and we find the joke in that. There's nothing that I can't look at and think, why do I find that funny? Why is it that even in that dark moment, I can find jokes in there? Yeah. It's a sense of humor that we have. So that if you're in a comedy show and you are fearless, that you don't care about what you might say. So that person's walking in front of you and you're going to get them, because how stupid of it was you to stand up and walk in front of a comic and think for 1 minute that we're not going to pick that up and get material out of that. Absolutely. I mean, that's just like, what can I say? That's just like that's a gift. So that's what people pay for. People pay for you to be heckled. so that you can find the strongest put downs. I remember when I first started doing stand-up, I used to have a list of put downs that I learned, like somebody say that, bang, I'm going to drop that one. Someone say that, I'm going to drop that. You know, early in my career, I used to be known as quite brutal for putting people and not sparing people. But I was thinking about some of my put downs, like, you dare say that because this one's going to shut you down. Because I have to shut you down, because if I don't, the crowd's going to go against me and think that I'm a soft touch. So it's a protective mechanism as well. These comics today and comics yesterday, nothing's going to really change except the type of people you really want to listen to now. You know, you've got people that you just think, oh, they're telling my story, I favour them more, I prefer that more. So it depends who you like. It depends what person represents your story. When I first started doing stand-up comedy, I'm the first black female here in this country. So black women came out in their hundreds to see me, because they knew I was going to talk about weave. You scratch that side and the other side moves, you know, growing up, dating, relationship, how we cook, how we feel, everything about being a black woman was coming out of my mouth, because that was the story that I wanted to tell. Ask your question in terms of who, you know?
Yeah, no, definitely. That's interesting. So, Angie, do you feel that social media has helped or hindered, comedians? Because what I'm saying is, sometimes you go on social media and you can click and there's so many people telling jokes and, randomly, but yet there are comedians who have studied the craft. So do you think this social media has helped or hindered those who have really, worked towards their career?
I think it's entertainers. I think sometimes you're going to get some real strong entertainers that found a new way of telling jokes, which is to record it, build an audience that way, and then once they've got the audience, they take that audience into a live setting, be it stand-up or sketches. So I think there's different routes to laughter now. There's different routes to humour. And where we were doing stand-up and it was just hardcore stand-up where we didn't have social media, you had to build your audience by getting up, driving to Birmingham, driving to Leeds, driving to Manchester, driving to Bristol, driving to Sheffield, driving to Hull, driving, the list goes on. And it was the 100 people became 500 people. The 500 people became 1,000 people. And then before you know it, you're touring the country. It gives you, in years to come, is you will always eat. I can go on tour. I'm going on tour next year. And my loyal audience will come out even if they've not seen me on television, even if they've not seen me on social media. Because you're just credible as a comedian. You're credible as a performer. And people know that with what's happening in the world right now, they want your take on it. So there's different routes to get there. You can get there really quick. Some people get there really quick and come back really quick. Because it's brutal out there. Because you want to go in front of an audience and you put a mic on and you put that mic on and say, okay, let's go. I'm here for 2 hours to make you laugh. That's the test.
Yeah.
Where the craft comes in, that's where those journeys up and down the motorway, jokes, reading something and thinking, how can I make that funny? And not just having a minute on Insta, a minute on the social media where you can be funny for a minute. I can be hilarious for a minute. It's the 2 hours that I really want to know where my craft has gone. And that's what I said to my son. One man show. Immediately. Don't be thinking your 20 minutes set is going to hold your career up. When television's gone and social media is not there, you want your true audience to be able to turn up and say, I love you 20 years ago, 30 years ago, still love you. Where's the ticket? I'm there.
Yeah. Okay, so do you feel that black comedians get their props in the UK?
Oh, absolutely not. No, without a doubt, we don't. Where do we start? The truth of the matter is, we know we're different. We're dealing with so much. We're dealing with people's insecurities. We're dealing with jealousy. We're dealing with racism. We're dealing with so many levels of how this business works. And it's a business. It might be called show business, but that's really just a show. Business is really what it's about. And we are competition for a lot of our counterparts. And a lot of our counterparts are in a system whereby they are married to the industry. So they've got contacts. We haven't laid roots down yet to say, okay, here's a network. Oh, such and such's son is doing comedy. Call Angie because she runs that network. Oh, right, yeah, your son wants to do a show? Okay, yeah, come on my network. We haven't got that boys club yet. So we will never be in the running yet. All we're doing right now is building profile, building up power because we've got an audience. Once we get into the networks, once we get into like your network here, once we're owning our narrative, that's where the power starts, because that's where the advertising starts. This is business. This is not about, oh, I don't like you because you blah, blah, blah. I prefer to give it to somebody that I know. This is what we struggled with in the 80s and 90s. They were getting commissioning their mates. It wasn't about just being funny, because we were funny. But when we turned up to the table, we were black funny. So they don't know if there's an audience for that, if Middle England wants to actually see black people making them laugh. But actually some of them did. But the money would come to us. You know, think about the Real McCoy, Get Up, Stand Up, Empire Road, No Problem, Us Girls. All those shows are not being repeated. Why not? Because we get paid. There's so much more to just being on television. It's the behind the scenes power that we're not getting so that we can control our narrative to say, you're going to get paid. I want you to have your own show. I want you to executive produce your own show. I want you to write it. I understood the power of writing when I got my royalties for the shows that I've written. Some of the shows that I've written on, you wouldn't even know I'm writing behind the scenes, but I'm getting paid. And then you start to see, oh my God, you're getting paid because you're in the system, not just at the front. The power's not in the front, the power's in the back. What do you want me to do? Draw from my Bible?
Yes, please. Bring it on. But you know what? That's exactly what we're trying to do here at Yanga. Exactly what you're talking about. You know, we've got a platform here now. So Angie, when did this transition start for you from being a comedian to behind the camera?
Oh, very early. I think doing the stand-up circuit for a good amount of years. And the reason why we lose women on the circuit is because they actually get pregnant, have children, home commitments. It takes them off the road for a bit. But I tell you this, God totally blessed me with a husband that loved to drive, because he would drive me to all my gigs. And my kids were in the back. So I stayed on the circuit really long. You know, I'd run in, do my 20-minute set, jump out, feed my kids, go back home. It was just like this unit driving up and down the motorway. And so when I really started to get tired and started to write like Funny Black Women and directing it, I realized that I just felt there was such a nice feeling creating your work and not having to hand it over to somebody to say, you do what you want to do with it now. I could have an idea that I can write, that I can produce, and I can execute it. And I can also be in it if I wanted to be in it. Because I'm dyslexic, okay? And I always struggled at auditions. And I knew I could act, but sometimes the auditions would really freak me out because I couldn't cold sight read. And so I wouldn't get the roles. And I remember thinking, when I write my shows, I'm going to put myself in it. Because you know what? I don't even have to audition for myself because I could just be in it because I wrote it. So Funny Black Women, I was in it and I was directing it. So I'm on the stage, then jumping off going, so stay there and do that and bring the light here and do this. So that's how I'm doing it. Then as I'm moving more in my career, I realized there's a language that I needed to learn. So when somebody says to me, what kind of lighting do you want? I can say, you know what kind of lighting I want? Give me this, give me that. And start to understand direction. What more could I get from directing? Let me go and learn how to direct. Let me go and learn how to write stronger, because I'd send work in to be read and the feedback would come back. There's no structure, there's no plot. And I used to think, it's good. What's wrong with it? What do you mean there's no structure, there's no plot? It's good, right? I had to go and understand what is structure, what is plot, what am I trying to do with my characters, so that I could be an all-rounder. So when somebody rejects the work, I can go, I understand, I know what I need to address. And I had this thirst for just kind of like getting other actors and putting them on the stage and making them shine. You know, when I've done The Brothers, you know, Richard Blackwood had never acted before, Harvey had never acted before, Jason Barrett had never acted before. But my aim was to get them to the end of that production, sell-out show with great performances. And the power to be behind the scene, knowing that I've got to raise the money, I've got to get this venue, I've got to, all the things that we're not really taught to do, because we're made to feel that those people over there who know how to do it will do it. So you just wait to be called. And I'm like, if you can do it, even if you do it badly. I remember when I did a show at the Albany Empire and I was thinking, where's everybody? How come no one's coming to support me? No one showed up. That's because he didn't put the date on it, Angie. Hello. I learned that lesson. Everything thereafter that had big dates on it.
Oh my goodness.
So trial and error was the great way of learning. Like, okay, I won't do that again. Let me give out my own leaflets. You'd see me down Deptford High Street, Lewisham, giving out my leaflets, going into the shops, going into record shops, all of that. A part of the PR. You call that PR and marketing now. It's just guerrilla style, let's get this stuff out there. And enjoying it, you know? So,
excellent, lovely. Thank you for sharing that. So we're at the halfway point in the show, but stay right there, as coming up in part 3, we will be finding out more about what drives Angie Le Mar, and we're not talking about her husband. Hello and welcome back to Tip Your Cap, where I'm speaking to none other than Angie Le Mar. Welcome back, Angie. So Angie, I know that you were brought up in the church. So would you say that God and religion, you know, is a driving force for you?
Oh, absolutely. How can I say, like you said, I was raised in the church. My mum was an evangelist, my father was a deacon, and really it's the kind of like my foundation. It's really where I come from. It's where I met my first real group of friends. It's where I saw friendship, fellowship, and just an understanding of community. And it came through the church for me. That was where I saw how to be, how to live. I saw family, I saw friendship, and I just saw a lot. And I loved it. I loved growing up in the church. I loved the fact that, you know, I had a reference point, and that reference point for me was church, you know, and even for my life, going through my life, it was almost the foundation, always the foundation for me, learning how to pray, learning how to say, oh my God, I need you right now, and being able to be in that position and never being shy from it, never being scared of it. You know, people have their different issues around religion, but I know that my religion puts me in a comfortable place. It puts me in a place that I can relate to God, and I'm happy with that. And that's never been compromised. I've been out of the church and back in the church now, but I had about 30 years out of it. And even then, there wouldn't be a production where we didn't hold hands and pray. It's not just Madonna doing it. You know, we've been doing this. Do you know what I mean? So that's a part of growing up for me. And driving force.
Yeah. So that transition, as you said, you was out of the church and then you came back. So did you come back in the midst of your career? Or can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, 7 years ago, actually, I kind of like, how can I say, there was something missing in my life completely. And I missed that feeling. When I hear gospel music, I go to a place. It's like when I hear lovers music, I go to a place, I go to lovers and I hear this music that reminds me of a time that everything was just fantastic. Everything was just right. You know, you go to a dance and a guy pull you for a dance and that was it. You go home and everything's beautiful. You didn't hear about anybody being harmed or getting killed or the evil that is there now. It wasn't that. So when I hear music, music will transport me back to a place. And so gospel music will always take me right back to where I first started. And when I was in this business, there's such treachery and disappointment and upset and madness. This business can drive you mad because you think things are promised to you and you think that you work so hard, you get the result and everything's fine. So you're always kind of searching for improvement. And I think there was a time in my life when I realized, actually, I partied hard. I drank some champagne. I've been to the places. I've really had a great time. But something was missing. Something was still missing. And there was no enjoyment in the money. There was no enjoyment in the fast life. You know, if somebody bought me a G-Wagon, perhaps there might be a little bit of enjoyment there still. Do you know what I mean? But it wasn't anything to kill for. Because even when you got it, it didn't really matter. You know, I always say to, like, when I'm working on a production, my best enjoyment, the time I'm really enjoying it is when I'm actually working in the rehearsal room. Because the journey of creating and writing and finding the show is where I'm at peace. But when the show comes, you kind of like, you've done the work. So something was really missing for me and I just kind of felt very low. And I went into a little bit of a depression of, is this it? You know, you've gone to that meeting, they say the same thing. Is this it? Is this it? Where's the buzz? And for me, that's when I started to go back to my first place, which was the church. And being in the church, I just kind of found, oh, I was happy here. This was my happy place. I love hearing the gospel music. My old friends from back in the day, I'm still in touch with, my Sunday school friends. I mean, that's just great. You know, I love the work that I do and I still do it, but I don't have to rely on that feeding me.
Yeah, that's really interesting, actually. So ladies talking about rehearsals, I bet they were interesting and funny and fun. So, you know, I also know that, you know, you're very, you know, you really feel for the female voice. So Ladies Talk is what you've created, a talk show. So is that something that's coming back, or tell us a bit about that?
Well, actually, you know, I kind of like, I love talk from when I was on radio, Choice FM, Saturday mornings, the evening shows when I was on BBC Radio London. There was always a need to talk and there was always a need to find the right space to talk, because to have the right conversation, you've got to be in the right space. Nobody just chats anywhere. You've got to feel comfortable and you've got to be able to go, well, this is going to be a safe zone. So doing radio allowed me the ability to carve out a nice kind of niche of interviews and talk. So when I was invited on to Loose Women, there was a search, they really wanted a black woman on Loose Women. There was a demand, like people were starting to recognise that we're watching 4 white women and something feels odd for London. So then it was like, oh, we need a black woman. And my agent called me and said, look, they need a black woman, can you go in and do this show? So I went and did it, and I remember thinking, it's not going to work out here, because I know I could see little moves that were happening, and I thought, here we go again. So, but the thing for me is, once I know how it works, because I watch the room and I learn how it works, and then I go, I can do that. So when they didn't invite me back, I thought, I'll do my own. So I went to one of the African networks and said, look, I can get the women together. I just need a table. I need a table and I need to be able to just talk weekly. And that's how I created Ladies Talk. So originally, I used to have a show on Choice FM called Ladies Room, which was a room where, you know, when you go to the toilet, ladies can chat. They don't even know each other. They just talk and go home, and they would have spilled all their guts out and not even got a name to find out who they were talking to. I wanted to create that on Ladies Talk, which was a room where women can come and speak. So I will be bringing Ladies Talk back. It's just to work out how and when and who and how. But social media is quite big now, so we can take that platform and move it forward. But it was really about saying, we want the real. That's what we want, actually. We want the British version of the real, not version of ladies, Loose Women or The View. So it's just to get the live show now, because we want the audience to talk back in real time.
So speaking of innovation, you also opened a performing arts school. That's something I forgot to say to you, Ange. You know, before we were talking off air and I was saying about the directing, I actually owned a performing arts school too. So I'm telling you, I'm following you. So you opened a performing arts school. So tell us about that.
Oh, for me, I kind of like, you know, when you're growing up, you want to go to drama school, and I wanted to go to Central, I wanted to go to RADA. I didn't apply for them, so it's not like I was even rejected. I just wanted to go. But there was a workshop that I used to go to called Dick Shepherd's in Dick Shepherd's called Afro Sax. And it was run by Larrington Walker, the late Larrington Walker, Ellen Thomas and Trevor Etienne. And I was in my teens, and we used to go there every Monday and Wednesday and Fridays, and do this wonderful workshop, and I just loved it. It was like our Black RADA. And I remember going to Barbara Spake's stage school with two of my friends, the Morrow sisters back then, and we would take a 36 bus and then a 7 to Acton to do these afternoon workshops, you know, ballet. As you can see, my ballet career really took off. But that's for the future. But we didn't have nowhere to go. And I remember growing up and realising what I'd learned at the Albany Empire, Second Wave, and all those different places. That I wanted to create somewhere in Lewisham where young kids could get the benefit of what I'd learned. So I created a school called the Angie Le Mar School of Expression that we ran for a couple of years. And what I wanted to do was marry the people that I had grown up with who were successful and bring them back to the school to do classes. One of the greatest experiences was bringing Shalimar, Jeffrey Daniel, to the school to teach the children the moonwalk. Now, this was a class, right, where the parents, on that day, all the parents were in attendance, standing at the back because they were going to meet Shalimar, somebody that they grew up with. And the kids were thinking, who is this guy that she wants us to have this workshop with? And he came in and he taught them the moonwalk. And I said, he taught Michael Jackson the moonwalk, and now he's teaching you. Some of them got it, some of them didn't. And years later, one of the students tweeted me because they were watching a documentary on television about Michael Jackson. And she tweeted me, she goes, I see what you were trying to do. Thank you. And I felt that, because she's now watching Jeffrey Daniel thinking, Angie Le Mar brought him to our school to teach us the moonwalk. And the penny dropped for her. Yeah. And that's what I wanted to do. Kwame Ma used to come to the workshops. You know, I brought in just Harvey. I brought in different names of people that I had known in the industry. Ellen Thomas came down, you know, just to talk to them and share their experience. And we got the power to do that. You know, people might not know that we're doing it, but we've got the power to doing it. We're making it happen. So I hope to bring it back, because, you know, when you're kind of funding a school and trying to keep it together, it's hard. It was hard. But seeing those kids every day, and they weren't allowed to be late. This was so great. The parents used to say to me, Mum, Angie, my kid's driving me mad trying to get to the school on time because you won't allow them to be late. I said, yeah, because lateness is not in our DNA. Don't follow no stereotype. Being late is a problem for me. And I don't want new kids to think that that's okay in life. And if they were late, they had to tell me for a minute why they were late. 1 minute telling me why they were late. They didn't want to go through that, so they were never late. I love them.
Excellent. And you know what? I believe that no experience is wasted at all. So all of these things you want to bring back, definitely, you're in the right place to do that. We have to take another break right now, but join me in a few moments as we wrap up today's conversation on Tip Your Cap. Don't go anywhere. Hello and welcome back to Tip Your Cap with me, Trey Ann Rowe, and my guest, the fantastic and funny Angie Le Mar. Welcome back, Angie. So Angie, Do you have any intentions of taking your goals internationally? I know that you have a love for Jamaica. So, you know, I'm thinking to myself, comedians in Jamaica, are there any women comedians? And, you know, what could you bring there, possibly?
You know, it's funny you say that because I live in Jamaica as well. So I always, it's the commitment to the work that they want me to do in Jamaica. Like there's work that I'll be doing it on the networks and also in the radio department, which is they want me to do a show in Jamaica, a radio show in Jamaica. But it's because I come back and forth in the commitment. But now that things are changing, I'm looking at going to be taking on some more work in Jamaica because my mother, I lost my father 5 years ago, so my mother's there. So I have to be with her. And, you know, it makes complete sense for me to be there, located there, and just come back and forward for seasonal work here. And internationally, America, we're taking some productions to America right now. And it's just that time now where I tried certain things early in my career and I wasn't ready. And then I stopped doing a lot because I had children, 3 children that I wanted to raise. So traveling internationally wasn't really good for me to do so. But now they're all grown now. They've gone about their business. Some are going to go about my business. So for me, it's just time. And Jamaica, they've got some fantastic performers there and some great work that's coming out of Jamaica that's going straight international. So we're ready for the world. And it's great to know that it's not just here. There was a time when we only believed it could be done here. The world has really opened up right now and we want to take advantage of that.
Excellent. So talking about Africa as well, yeah. So talking about, you mentioned America, that was going to be my next question. So a little birdie did tell me that you have some kind of work going on in America. Is there anything you can share with us about that to get us excited?
Well, I can't say too much.
Yeah, okay.
I would say that it's working with one of my absolute idols, and he started his career in pretty much the same type of way I started mine, which is build your own audience and be able to create your narrative for your audience and not be compromised, not think, oh, is it too black or is it not black, or we don't upset this, or just tell your story. So for me, that's going to be a great experience, I believe. Yeah,
I'm really looking forward to that. But actually, I don't want you to tell me too much because you might have to kill me, right? So it's all right. Don't tell me no more. Don't tell me no more. You're also an author. Tell us about that. This just starts getting better and better.
Well, the book is called Full Circle and available on my website. But it's really just a journey, my story in my words, from my perspective, my truth. I'm not being Megan when I say my truth. But it's telling the story as I know it to be, which is no one can't tell it for me, because when they tell it, they're either going to rewrite it or write me out. So let me make sure I put myself in it. And it's full circle because it went back to the beginning of my life where I found my happiness and my peace. And just feeling very rebellious right now in my life, where there's nothing I can't do. I can do what I like. I can go where I want. I can really live my best life because God has blessed me with a gift, and that gift has made room for me. And now I'm living on purpose, deliberate, finding people, mentoring them, helping to create the next generation. I've done several workshops. A lot of the comedians I've mentored for their careers, that to this day you see them on television. But the fact of the matter is, it's not just for me. It's never for you. And if you're the only one benefiting from your life, you're doing something wrong. There must be somebody out there that said, Angie did this for me, Angie did that for me. My funeral is supposed to be packed. It will be packed. And that's going to be the blessing that I would have lived a full life, so that there is legacy. And we write our story so that we can refer to it. You know, Shakespeare got more props when he was dead. I know I ain't going to get all my props now. Do you know what I mean? But what I'm putting in place is legacy. You will be able to draw from my plays. I have 10 plays, and I'm writing a film now, a sitcom now, and I'm loving it. I'm writing a kids' book as well.
Wow, you are busy. You are busy,
Yes.
but so inspirational as well. So, Angie, would you say, are there any up-and-coming comedians we need to keep an eye out for?
Well, I mean, the thing is, it's kind of hard to say that who you should look out for. I do workshops. I mean, right through COVID, I had about 15 comics I was working with. You know, up and coming comics, teaching them how to write, how to structure, how to make a life out of the comedic career if there were no television or if there were no social media. What are you as a comic? And so it's been great to be able to mentor and work with comics. I write for quite a few comics. Some don't want to disclose that I write for them because they pay you enough so that they don't have to disclose it. It's just their joke. But you got paid, you bought some new shoes, and you're going swimming.
Yeah. Excellent. So you was talking about legacy. What I'd like to know is, what one word would you want to leave as your legacy?
Truth. If I had to choose a word, it would be truth. Or true. And that's such an important word, which is I'm true to myself. And if my work that comes through my hand, the truth comes out of my hand, I tell the truth. I talk my truth. So truth would be the word that I would legacy. You know, I want to be a real one, you know, that told the truth. So that might make your journey slower. That might make the doors close. But that's not my business.
Excellent. So just before we close, have you got any advice you'd give to young people coming up and older people like myself entering the industry?
I would say this. I was just talking to somebody yesterday and I said, you know, dreams don't die. They have to be resolved somehow. And there is no age on entry points into this industry. Because you might come in as somebody who's playing a grandmother or playing a mother. You might come at that entry because somebody's written a role for that person. So nothing's just for young people. Let's not get this thing twisted. You can come in at a later age. You can study for such a time whereby something comes and it's just the universe has come together to make it all work. But don't stop and don't just be influenced by what people are saying is the thing to have or the thing to do. Try and find your own voice and what you're about and find people who are about that too. And just surround yourself with people like that and be encouraged to know that it's not always on a high, sometimes it's on a low. And that low frequency is actually okay to be in. Not that you want to be low in depression, I'm not saying that, but when it's not working for you. Sometimes you have to have pride to say, I'll go and do that job while that's not working, or I'll go and do that job. Don't take it as a rejection because no one doesn't understand your plight at this moment. You've got to be able to say, they don't understand, I'll show them. I'll show them what I mean. I know, I'll take my time. Do not rush, because sometimes I feel young people are rushing to get to success. Honestly, it is not the success, it is the journey. So enjoy the journey, the making of the cake, because that is really where the power is as well. And believe in yourself. Believe in it. I've always believed in myself. My parents gave me that. Like, believe in yourself. Have confidence in who you are. I don't need to change my nose, change my complexion. I might need to change my wig, but that's a hair choice.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, Angie Le Mar, all I have left to say now is I would love to tip my cap to you, Angie Le Mar. You are somebody I look up to. I'm amazed by all that you've done. And yeah, I'm just like, keep going, girl. Keep going, sis. Keep pushing. Because you know there are people who look up to you who are afraid to step out, to do different things, you know. But we're looking at you and thinking, my girl's got it. My sis got it, man. So again, I tip my cap to you, Angie Le Mar.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
So that's all we've got time for on this edition of Tip Your Cap. A huge thank you to my guest, Angie Le Mar, and to all of you at home for watching. I'm Trayanne Rowe, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again here on Tip Your Cap. Goodbye for now.